Okay, so it is now March 3rd, 2025. Today's video will cover just this period of time from this past Friday till tomorrow, where President Trump will give Congress a speech. It seems a lot of interesting things are happening, so I'm just going to share with you my thoughts. As you know, last Friday we had the historic meeting between President Donald Trump and Ukraine's leader, Vladimir Zalenskyy. Vice President J.D. Vance was also in attendance. It ended in a rather embarrassing way for this person. After getting kicked out of the White House, political figures from all over Europe offered their unwavering support for Zelenskyy and Ukraine. I'm just rolling two different examples. Justin Trudeau, Karl Nehammer, Bart de Wever. There is also a message from the head of the EU, Ursula, who describes free speech as a virus.
Is much more successful than debunking. Debunking is basically the opposite of debunking. So if you think of information manipulation as a virus, instead of treating an infection once it has taken hold, that is debunking. It is much better to vaccinate so that the body is inoculated. Debunking.
That's clever. Politically, this goes both ways. In a long thread, it shares various statements made by European leaders in support of Zelenskyy in his embarrassment. Just an example, you have Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister stating Ukraine is not to blame for this war brought on by Russia as illegal invasion. We stand with Ukraine. Prime Minister of Luxembourg, Luc Friedson, said Luxembourg stands with Ukraine. You are fighting for your freedom in a rules-based international order. NWO, huh? Importantly, Hungary was not one of the NWO countries in full-throated support of Zelenskyy. In the EU, Hungary actually blocked the EU security guarantee for Ukraine. Keep in mind, in our timeline, we've gone through whole years of recovery from the virus that had taken over the world. Hungary is one of the standout countries that did not lock down like the rest of the liberal European countries. And as a result, they seem to have a correlation of reduced averages for new cases. There are the real physical viruses, and then there are the mental mind viruses that are propagated by the MSM. In many posts, Elon Musk has detailed the use of media as well as the college education system as being the source of propagation of radical ideas. It really has been something to behold, with radicalization increasing really in the last 5 years more than any other time period. It's really my interest and excitement for this time period rests on acknowledging the fourth turning concept, the idea that civilization goes through cycles of sanity and insanity, and that at this point in time, we may be in a fourth turning of relative insanity. According to fourth turning theory, World War II era was the time period where things were somewhat similar to now. And so you can see through the art of Dr. Seuss, there were themes such as immigration, any question of, is the US's isolationism, that is a focus on America first, somehow being an aid and augment to fascism? But just keep in mind that history does not repeat, it rhymes. So the circumstances will evolve and the context will evolve somewhat drastically compared to prior contexts. When today's video is posted, I'll link this video as a reply or pinned comment on YouTube. Won't play it here, but we'll summarize that. Basically, she states a belief that March 4th, that is tomorrow, marks the true presidential inauguration day and also marks the day the United States goes back to being a true republic where it was once a corporation. The corporation will still exist and all U.S. citizens' debts will still exist within the corporation, but no longer the de jure United States. It'll be no longer necessary to repay the debts. Supposedly a dead man switch will activate, and there's concern by this person that either tomorrow or over the course of the next month, our current president will be taken out of this world, but not to have fear because it's supposedly all a show. And that reminds me of this post by Truth Seeker stating you are watching a movie, pointing to those involved with Friday's meeting, Zelenskyy, Trump, and Vance, stating they are all actors. Zelenskyy, as you know, has been caught in some somewhat fruity situations, so he is an actor who apparently was selected by the deep pockets to later lead Ukraine. Trump had his own show in addition to being a real estate tycoon, but I did not know that J.D. Vance also had his own IMDb page and had worked as a writer and actor for Hillbilly Elegy, memoir of a family and culture in crisis, so I don't totally discount this information. But I did comment below, whenever there is something persuasive said for general engagement, singly or as a campaign, that involves the prediction of the death of a political figure, it could be considered a vehicle of predictive programming propaganda for assassination already planned by the deep state agencies Siebel. Donald Trump is the man who survived an attempt on his life, which we saw on TV. So obviously at any point, there's a risk of there being another attempt on his life. However, anytime a strong idea is propagated somewhat inorganically, you have to be always wary that it could come from a DS source with the intent to prime the public for something the public very much doesn't want. The concept of airframe testing, or idea that evil actions are justified so long as you give a tip-off that gets ignored. Stupid stuff. But we keep our spiritual armor equipped because this is still quite a dark but transforming world. The Ingersoll Lockwood website appears to time out now, but those who had access had noted that there is a countdown timer that apparently goes to 9 Eastern tomorrow. On Truth Social, Donald Trump advertises his speech to Congress as a speech to joint session. He says, "Tomorrow will be a big night. I will tell it like it is." So many have wondered if Trump himself will expose secrets concerning Epstein or other atrocities within the government. Because of Friday, February 28th's fallout in the White House, because of the USAID exposure by Elon Musk, we are at a very tender point in the timeline for the US. I'll play to you the very portion of this interview where the wheels start to fall off the wagon in discourse. The background that I was provided was that supposedly Zalenskyy had agreed days before to the mineral deal with the United States. The US was to, in repayment for billions of dollars given to Ukraine over the last few years, have the mineral rights to certain areas within the country. The US would mine the minerals, but because of the presence of miners, that could act as a deterrent against Russia. Because if Russia were to attack a certain region of Ukraine where mineral allocation was occurring by the US, that would then trigger a conflict between the United States and Russia. So that was the premise of what was already agreed to by Zalenskyy. So Vladimir Zalenskyy then came in to finalize and sign a deal. But prior to that, there was this odd public press conference in the Oval Office. The deal itself was in a different room. That is the agreement that Zalenskyy was to sign. At approximately 40 minutes into the public interview, something happens that starts to derail the situation. So I'll start here at 40:14.
Our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014.
He's talking about Putin occupied parts of Ukraine.
So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014
2014.
and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was,
he killed,
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly
but-
right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see that transition. So Zalenskyy patiently takes that moment to explain how there was a ceasefire, but Putin broke the ceasefire. And so what diplomacy, Vance, are you going to offer that's going to be different than what came before? And then look how Vance starts to respond. The energy kind of shifts. Just listen to this carefully.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
So it appears Vance is taking offense.
Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to.
So this is just kind of unfortunate. So now Donald Trump is starting to appear to get a little upset. But, as we discussed before, these three each have their own resumes supporting a capacity to be an actor. By Zalenskyy offering the retort to Vance concerning how this ceasefire will be different than the previous ceasefire, it led to that hot rebuke from Vance. I can see the angle of this being contrived and it purposely being made to lead to the rejection of Zalenskyy publicly. This one suggests that the disagreement that led to Zalenskyy leaving was also what would lead to Trump getting taken out of this world, and that the whole thing is an act, so to speak, and that there could be more than one so-called Trump and other figures. I think that interpretation of things is a bit extreme, but it's just something to consider in the spectrum of what's possible. I responded in a comment to the video. I side with Trump 99% but disagree here. Zalenskyy made valid points regarding no prisoner swap as agreed to, made ceasefire, broken claim, and offered a chance for rebuttal by Vance if he could. But Vance said, "How dare you," rather than keep the talks cool and rebut or accept. So in my primary interpretation of the event, it just appeared to me that Vance may have lost his cool, and that led to possibly completely changed history. Because what if now Zalenskyy never comes back to sign the mineral rights deal with the US? The war continues on until Europe doubles down. After this took place, I predicted that some apparent public doubling down would occur. Zalenskyy went to the UK and then met with PM Starmer. Here's a post by Clandestine. UK PM Starmer proposes a new plan for Ukraine and wants Europe to up their economic spending, and says the UK are prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air.
But that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting.
So this is a really serious situation. I previously did a video covering Victoria Nuland's role and how the Ukraine-Russia conflict may be a US NATO creation. The doubling down on a war footing in support of Ukraine by the UK continued, even with King Charles also meeting with Zalenskyy. I knew it was going to occur because if Trump is allowed to have an "I told you," if he's somehow able to have Zalenskyy groveling back, accepting the US mineral deal, that would cause all of Europe to look bad in support of their continued endless Ukraine v. Russia war. All of Europe, pretty much, with Hungary and a few other exceptions, supported Zalenskyy. It matters not that these regions are mostly ethnic Russian and had peoples that wanted to leave the hyper-corrupt biolab Ukraine to join Russia. There are some serious problems in that country. If J.D. Vance was not acting, I'll be curious to see how the situation gets rectified. Bricks News reports Zalenskyy says he would meet President Trump again for serious talks, but only Trump, because he obviously is a bit upset with J.D. Vance. Donald Trump, who is a master deal maker, has excellent interpersonal skills and knew how to deal with difficult persons such as Zalenskyy. Yes, it's true Zalenskyy should have been more respectful in coming into the White House, maybe dressed in suit and tie, and not trying to create new arguments if he decided not to agree with the original deal. But if you're trying to stop World War III, you have to be able to work at the level of the individual who you're negotiating with. Donald Trump understands this. And then it should be noted that in this setting, we have the controversy around Pam Bondi, her blocking popular influencer Laura Loomer on X. That many worried about Kash Patel's connection to the Israel individuals and claims of Pam Bondi's connection to the Israel individuals, and fear that Israel is preventing the release of information concerning Epstein because Epstein was supposedly Moss AD. We learned how the major influencers such as DC Drano, Jack Posobiec, among others, seem to use very similar postings on their social media when they received the binder of regurgitated public domain information on Epstein, all making it seem like a astroturfed campaign with a controlled Pam Bondi. Alpha Warrior notes that Ariel is also attacking Pam, and that it should clue us into the idea that the attack on Pam Bondi might itself be a type of psyop by paid operators, not on the good side, but on the evil side. And that was also going into Thursday, Friday. And so just consider this masterful work by Maestro Trump. Yesterday, Sunday, Trump announced a strategic reserve. The U.S. crypto reserve will elevate critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directed the presidential working group to move forward with a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP, SOL, and ADA. So this message appears to be an attempt to undercut the whirlwind of media biased against Trump by the fourth turning individuals, potentially with aim to help Europe double down into the concept of backing Ukraine. The embarrassment would be too much for Europe to allow Trump the victory with Zalenskyy. And so it would be natural only to create public statements showing the willingness to push the world into WW3. But Donald Trump shows he really is in control. He can create new news cycles and distract at appropriate intervals. Even the planned speech jointly to Congress on the 4th could be looked at as a type of cutting distraction, stopping the Illuminists from continuing the trajectory in a news cycle. My presentation today is a bit abstract, but there is quite a lot going on, much of which is worth commenting on. Thanks for watching. I just want to comment before I go that it's important to know that this is not like 2016 to 2020. There are geniuses at the helm. Mysterious geniuses communicated directly with myself and others. They know what we're dealing with.